what is emotional intelligence? So, the way I describe emotional intelligence is that it's how we perform under pressure. You guys are seeing me under pressure right now. All the eyeballs are on me. And like I said at the beginning of the call, feeling a little bit nervous, a little bit excited. So, it's that ability to truly like tap into our bodies and say, what am I noticing right now? How am I showing up? Now, it can be pressure, but it can also be any sort of situation that triggers an emotional response. So it's that ability to sort of read and understand our feelings and know what we're feeling and why we're feeling that. So I'm going to send you guys into breakout rooms with each other, so with strangers. And I want you to pause for a second and think about how the thought of that makes you feel. How does it make you feel to think that in a minute, Jen and I are going to send you into breakout rooms? So take a minute, write it down. What's the feeling of that? And where in your body do you like, how do you know, like where in your body does it tell you what you're feeling? What gets lit up when you sort of have this emotional response? Like, give me a couple words to describe that experience. Like, be honest, like scary, exciting. What was the word that you used to describe your feeling? Feel free to just pop that in the chat. I want to sort of take a temperature check of the group and see, what was that like for you? How did you feel? What did you notice? Cleva says, excited to meet new people. Fantastic. What else we got there? Who wants to be honest and say like that was their worst nightmare? Norris was curious to see who you got paired up with, feeling excited. There we go. There's some honesty, a little bit stressed out, Definitely. Fantastic. So you guys get the essence of the exercise, like taking this moment, taking something uncomfortable and really pausing for a second to say, how does this make me feel? So I just like threw you in right off the deep end. And I hope you don't mind me sort of just playing with you guys and having some fun. Now, let's get down to business. Why does emotional intelligence matter? It matters. It matters so much. The world is changing so quickly. We all know that. We all experience that in our personal lives, our professional lives. We are in the middle of a global pandemic. Businesses are being disrupted left, right, and center from these outside conditions, but also for the fact that we are in what's called the fourth industrial revolution, which technology is just like taking off. And so with these new stresses, with this sort of like environment where we're being pulled in all these different directions, is this need to be able to tune into ourselves, to better respond, to better collaborate, to better work in partnership with people that are different than us. And so emotional intelligence matters because it allows us to have more meaningful human connections with one another. And when we have more meaningful human connections, when we're better able to communicate and collaborate, we're better able to perform. And that gone are the days where just like only the head matters in business. What matters now is like the heart, the feelings. And that if we are going to get work done, you know, as effectively as possible with these different sort of challenges amongst us, we have to be able to tap into our head, our heart, and our gut, actually is what I say. But our heart is like our feelings, and using more than just our brains to think our way through a situation. We need to tap into our whole bodies to be able to get through challenging situations. Our bodies have its own brain, and that historically we haven't really tapped into that as much as we can to, you know, creatively find solutions to some of the challenges that we see. So you get what I'm talking about. I hope I've sold you on why it matters. Now the question that sorry, just popping over here, is, as I just said, this basically just describes everything that I was talking about. I jumped ahead here, but really, you know, competing priorities, doing less, doing more with less, working with different people than us, and really just trying to come together to find the best solutions beyond just our brains. So again, traditionally, the focus has been in leadership on like strengths and competencies and strategy. It's all been like this very brain-centered direction. Whereas now we're recognizing that there's more than just a mind, a brain that needs to be involved in solving problems and leading people, that there's this heart, that there's this like inner leader within us that needs to come out and connect with each other in order to have higher performing teams. And so traditionally, we have been able to see behaviors and competencies, like the things on the surface of what makes a leader great, but we haven't necessarily paid attention to the things underneath the surface that we need to be paying attention to that makes a leader meaningful. You know, I always quite often love this quote. I say it a lot in these webinars, which I'm like, here I go again. But Maya Angelou, you know, is famous for saying, people will never remember what you said, but they will remember how you made them feel. And having emotional intelligence, cultivating your emotional intelligence, increases your ability to leave people feeling better than when you found them. So how do you do that? Well, what goes into emotional intelligence? What is it that's under the surface that people can't see? It's the self-awareness. So who am I? How am I showing up? How am I feeling in this moment? Can I name more than like 3 feelings? Like seriously, can you? Think about that. There's a lot of feelings out there, and usually our vocabulary is only limited to about 3 or 4. Can you regulate yourself when you're having a moment, when you're excited or when you're under pressure? Like, where do you go? Do you get dramatic? Do you start spinning? Do you get super excited and people can't, like, they're like, whoa, calm down? Like, what happens and how are you able to regulate yourself? Where's your motivation? Is your motivation within you or is it outside of you? Where does that come from? How do you find sort of inspiration to go do that next thing? Next is social awareness, is that ability to, like, when triggered in a situation, like, read the room. What's happening around me right now? Or are you so triggered by your own situation that you're only seeing red and you have this inability to sort of see your impact on everybody else? And the last component is that social regulation. So truly that ability to sort of adapt to the environment, adapt to the room. Okay? Those are the components of emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence was really sort of made popular by this author, Daniel Goleman. He's written a ton of books. I've got like audio tapes, like everything. This guy is just real, like really like sort of the name most commonly associated with emotional intelligence. And I was just literally talking to someone someone who's sort of on this team about what makes an employee like a future high potential employee. And I love this discussion because there's so many different competing arguments to it. But truly, what I think it is a potential's ability to has emotional intelligence. It really is the heart of leadership. And so when it comes time to like creating your high performing teams, you want to make sure that the people on those teams with the greatest potential have emotional intelligence for all the reasons I just described. So I want you to sort of take this, your own thinking, and take it a little bit deeper. What I'm going to ask you to do now is pause for a second with that piece of paper and a pen and tell me, actually, you're not going to tell me, you're going to write down. Think about in your whole life, who was the best boss that you worked for and why? What aspects of what I just described as emotional intelligence really showed up? What did you really notice about their emotional intelligence? And also notice sort of how they made you feel in all different conditions. When they were mad, I mean, because we all get mad sometimes. When they're excited, like how did that boss leave you and make you feel? And now think about the opposite. Who's one of the worst bosses that you've ever worked with? You don't have to name them, but just like maybe give them a fake name and ask yourself again, which aspects of emotional intelligence did they lack? And how did that make you feel? So we're going to throw you back into the same breakout rooms. The people that weren't in breakout rooms, you might have 1 or 2 new faces in your breakout room who might be able to put a few of them in their own. And you're just going to have this discussion. You don't have to share names. You don't have to share companies. You just use like a, code name or whatnot. But really what we're trying to get at is like the essence of what makes a leader have great, the components of great emotional intelligence and how that made you feel. And then the worst and how that made you feel. I just sort of selfishly popped into a group there to listen to some of the chat and got to see some of you, which was fantastic. And listen, and some of the things that this group was talking about were, leaders that sort of can show, that can be calm, that are like sort of calm under pressure, leave them feeling calm. And that is obviously a sign of good emotional intelligence. It isn't to say that you don't have feelings or don't have a reaction to something, but it's that ability to maintain that calmness can impact the environment, can impact the social situation that you're in. And that when the leader is calm under pressure, that the participant mentioned that she felt calm under pressure. An example of a bad boss was a boss with poor personal regulation skills, that when she was mad, she would stomp her feet. You could hear her. She was loud, just that real inability to sort of like tone it down. And then that energy is going to have a negative impact on the group. So I hope you guys all sort of were able to really have some great discussions and really clarify some behaviors that you've seen and examples of good and bad. What I want you to think about are these different components. I want you to think about, as we go through this, how would I rate my own personal awareness? Am I personally aware, or am I more like a bull in a china shop? Like, do I sort of rush through things and just to get things done without really recognizing maybe the impact of my behavior on others? When I am triggered and I notice an emotional response, what's my ability to self-regulate? Am I like that leader who just stomps through the office or like whips up a bunch of drama because they are unable to sort of self-soothe themselves in that process? Motivated. Where does your motivation come from? Are you motivated by the environment outside of you, or are you motivated internally? What motivates you? How do you stay motivated? Next is social awareness. Is that social awareness. So that ability to read the room, like what is happening in this board meeting right now and how's everybody feeling and what are people not talking about? We always sort of hear in these meetings, like what's not being said. And then finally, your ability to regulate the room. If things are going crazy, like, are you going to get amped up with them? Or if, just being able to adapt to what energy is showing up in the room and adapt to the relationships and the conversations that are having so that you can both hear one another. So these are the 5 components of emotional intelligence. And what I want you to do is just slowly sort of go through and give yourself a rating on a scale of 1 to 5. How would I rate myself in each one of these areas? How would I rate my ability to be self-aware? How would I rate myself under pressure, like to regulate? How motivated am I? How socially aware am I? And how would I rate my ability to like regulate myself in these social situations? You might need to think back to a time in your career or like in the last couple of weeks when you were triggered to sort of give yourself that proper snapshot. Awesome. So just go through, give yourself that rating. And now we want to talk a little bit about, okay, so if self-awareness was one of my lower scores, what might be some of the things that I can do to improve my self-awareness? So it starts with that, like taking the temperature. How do I feel right now? Do I have more than 3 or 4 feeling words to describe my feeling? Candace, can you pop in right now and say, like, what can you say about self-awareness and maybe some of the things that you talk about with your clients to help them raise the bar on self-awareness?
Yeah, so some I mean, there's so many different ways that we can even take this self-awareness conversation. But I think it's important just to recognize that there's a lot of things that can impact our self-awareness over time. And so, so while I was reflecting as you asked me, when I was writing down how do I feel my self-awareness is right now, because if I haven't had a good sleep, then that could impact my self-awareness. If I've not been eating well, or I'm not feeling well, that could impact my sense of how aware I'm feeling. And the other the other thing that I just take into consideration, and so that, I mean, this is something to reflect on for ourselves, but also when we're seeing people who maybe don't seem so self-aware either, then just what I'm really seeing is the pandemic has, for some people, really impacted and heightened people's awareness of self and their ability to sort of share how they're doing. I've seen positive and negative impacts of that as well. And other people, because they're in survival mode, that survival part of their brain is really hijacked their ability to be aware. And so those are just a couple of nuances to maybe consider within this as well.
Yeah, no, that's great, because I think that also comes down to like, how do I regulate myself? And right now, when we are being stretched so thin, it is hard to be like very grounded and practice this like strong self-awareness if we are like, I've heard of people not taking holidays for the last 6 months because, well, where am I going to go? Like, I can't go anywhere, so I might as well keep working. Or, the time that I used to take on my commutes, like, I'm not doing that anymore, so I'm just working. And so these things impact, as Candace was saying, our ability to be healthy, happy, and whole. That's what I talk about at Better Your Best, but really manage our energy. So self-awareness is like a yin and a yang. Like, having the ability to regulate means like, what's getting in the way of me being able to regulate it? So if I'm not healthy, happy, and whole, that's going to get in the way of me regulating it. And by healthy, happy, and whole, I mean eating well, sleeping well, exercising, connecting with the people that we love, giving our dogs cuddles, like doing the things that make you really happy and balanced. So to build onto that, how do I increase that? Well, go back to the drawing board and ask yourselves, what's missing right now from my life that's helping me be at my best? Because when I'm at my best, then I am most grounded and I can most optimally see how I am showing up. If I'm tired, I can't assess that. So those are some ideas around how to identify it. Check in with yourself, use a behavior assessment like an EQ assessment, but also ask yourself, what might be getting in the way of me being able to see it? And what do I need to reintroduce to my life to feel healthy, happy, and whole? So that lens goes from the self now to others. So self, and now we shift the lens to others, to what I call like the ecosystem. I'm going to skip over motivation and come back in a minute. So it's really like, what's happening on my team? What's going on in the team right now? Like, am I in one of these organizations where no one's taken a holiday in 18 months because there's nowhere to go? What is that doing to my team? That's like a macro level, but at a micro level, like, what's happening in this boardroom right now? What's happening with this comment or this statement that was made by someone? How is that impacting the team? And really, truly noticing that and seeing that. And if this is an area where you might not necessarily thrive, then you might ask yourself, who can I check in with on my team to say, how good of a job do I do with that? Like, do you think I have an ability to read the room? Or am I truly like this bull in the china shop who doesn't care what the room is saying, thinking, or feeling, and I'm just going to shove my agenda that way? I have a feeling that no one on this call does that everybody is socially aware, but really double check that and ask some of the people that you work with to verify that. Just consider that. Ask for feedback. It's trust building. Next is increasing social regulation. So once you're able to read the room, how can you strengthen your ability to become better at adapting to the room? Well, you can do that through, training and learning, coming to things like this, which is fantastic. But also sort of understanding behavior, understanding human behavior. And with that comes sort of understanding how communication works, how influencing works, how teams work, how interpersonal skills work. All of these things can help you strengthen your ability to regulate yourself socially and have that human connection that I was talking about from the beginning. And then finally, I'm going to skip backwards in the slide. It goes back to that motivational piece. It's just like, how are you motivated? Are you motivated internally or externally? What is your vision for yourself? What is your leadership vision for yourself? Do you have one? Do you have a path? So this is just a little bias that I have. Like quite often when in my coaching, I'll talk to clients and they're like, I'm just going to meet with my leader and ask them for feedback on where they see me headed in this organization. I hear this over and over and over and over again. And Candace is shaking her head. She hears it too. Here's a little secret. I want you to know that you heard it here first. I coach a lot of leaders, a lot of CEOs, and I can assure you, none of them are thinking about your career path. None of them are staying awake at night thinking about where they see your career and what capabilities you need. Warren is laughing so hard right now, aren't you, Warren? You've got a big smile on your face. They're not. They're thinking about how to make payroll. That's what they're thinking about. And so this is your time as humans. You get to craft your vision. You get to craft your leadership journey. You define what you want. So ask yourself, what's the vision for myself? Like, where's the motivation here? It's within you. Your control is within you. It doesn't exist with your boss. And so craft the vision and then create your plan. And so when we have this sort of like, I hold the power, I hold the cards, that optimizes our motivation and our ability to like get closer to what we want. And that combined with like personal awareness and social awareness, that's your secret sauce, right? So pay attention to that. Pay attention to, am I reacting to my environment and what I think the boss wants from me all the time? Or am I a driver? I actually just said that to someone yesterday. I'm like, on our next call, I want to talk about how you're going to be more of a driver and less of a passenger. So that's what it comes down to, is that motivation, defining what that means for you. Okay.
Can I just hop in real quick, Carolyn?
Yeah, thanks, Candace.
So I'm just going to offer 4 words.
Great.
Autonomy, mastery, purpose, and progress. So a year ago, autonomy, mastery, purpose, and progress. A year ago, I did a deep dive into like academic research on motivation, because I thought I got to up my game here, because we got to keep people motivated in the midst of all the change in pandemic. And when we're looking at how to motivate ourselves, then sometimes we can look at, and especially if we're feeling not motivated enough, then those 4 different aspects, according to research, are our biggest drivers. And so when we look at, so where can I look for more autonomy so that I can develop more mastery? The passion is here, and definitely purpose as well, but autonomy, mastery, purpose, and progress. Sometimes if we're feeling demotivated, or if we're feeling like, man, I want to be motivated, I want to show what I've got here, then looking at how we can demonstrate progress or make progress can make a really big difference.
Beautiful. So well said. So Candace really just took motivation and she just took it 1 notch further. So fantastic. So Candace, say those 4 words again so people can write them down if they didn't get it already.
Autonomy, mastery, progress, and purpose.
So we could take this leadership assessment 1 step further, and you could ask yourself, on a scale of 1 to 5, how am I feeling around those 4 areas right now? Consider them the 4 like sort of subtexts of motivation, and give yourself a rating on that right now. Okay, I'm going to throw you in 1 more breakout room. You literally have 5 minutes, and you're going to share 1 commitment that you can make in order to raise the bar on any of the stuff that was just mentioned right now. All right. Is it self-awareness? Is it self-regulation? Is it social awareness? Is it social regulation? Is it motivation? Is it autonomy, purpose, progress? Is it any of those things? Where do you want to, what area do you want to hone in on? And what might be some things that you can do? So when you get in there, it's going to be fast and furious. This is what I got. This is what I want to work on. Not a lot of discussion. Okay. This is what I got. This is what I want to work on. This is what I'm committing to in the next month, because I'm going to see all my next webinar in a month to raise the bar on my emotional intelligence. Question I'd asked everybody before I went into the breakout room is, where's your opportunity to grow? How are you going to grow? And what might be something that you could commit to? So, you know, it's not really a plan. I wrote EQ development plan here. That's a pretty aspirational statement. It's more of like that one commitment. Like I said, what's one thing that you can focus on in the next month? What were some of the things that you guys came up with? If you wouldn't mind sharing like some of the different ways that you could work on your different emotional intelligence area, put it in the chat. I'm just going to share with you one that Oscar brought up into our group, and that is meditation, that he practices, has a regular meditation practice, and it helps him stay really grounded, sort of like in who he is and how to regulate his emotions. So that's just a fantastic example. Let's do what I call a chat storm, get some more ideas in there, give each other some more ideas, and put those ideas in the chat for everybody to see. Oscar already owns meditation, so don't add meditation. Journaling, great, Candice. Taking a look, understanding at your day, setting an intention for the day, prepare your emotional state. Love that, Nikki. More intentional. Great. Getting exercise. Me too. Being outside, being in nature. I always feel way better after I've been with the trees. Great, you guys. So keep the chat going. We're just coming to the end here. I'm just going to quickly wrap us up by saying, like, this is your commitment. Like, what's your motivation around it? If you see yourself as a leader today, or you want to be the leader of tomorrow, where do you need to raise the bar in order to strengthen your emotional intelligence? And I mean, I can tell you, like, just because I'm trained and certified on this topic doesn't mean I'm the best at it. I would definitely say sometimes my personal regulation, like, I can get a little bit dramatic when things get tough. So that's the thing that I need to work on. It's a lifelong commitment. It's not just like you do it, you understand it, you learn it, and you're good at it. No, it's by practicing sort of being at our best, healthy, happy, and whole, that we're able to start and continue to cultivate it. So that sort of concludes today's like quick taste of emotional intelligence. If you or your organizations want to go deeper with this topic, we can do one-on-one assessments, we can do one-on-one coaching and training on the topic, but we can also do some team training where we bring units and people together to go deeper and talk about what this looks like and what this means for me and the firm, and how we raise the bar as an organization. How do we raise the bar in our collective wisdom? What could that mean for our business if we all were to raise our levels of emotional intelligence? So that's where, that's what we have to offer. Next month we have another webinar on influencing without authority. So it's again continuing the conversation on how to connect better with people. And we also have a book club that's open to anybody. And I just love the title of this book, Surrounded by Idiots. So I hope that you will join us for that book club. Unfortunately, the webinar is not popping up, but it's exactly 1 month from today, and it will be in my newsletters. And if you are on my email list, you'll get the email with the date and time, but also consider joining us sort of at the end of the quarter for this book club. If you have to pop off, do so. Thanks for sharing your lunch with me today, and for letting me just better my best with you. And hopefully you will all take away something from this, some emotional intelligence, an area where you can raise the bar. So if you have to pop off. But if you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and we can chat a couple more minutes about the topic. Thanks so much, you guys.